Hi guys, Ryan Fowler here with Tim Costello, Jordan Kurtz, MindChrysalis Live. We rebranded. We're now MindChrysalis because we're here to change the world, including men. And we got a good show for you today, talking about internal walls, internal fortresses. There's a good doctor whose clip we're going to examine and comment on it. And what's the downside of keeping your walls up, your internal walls? Is there and is it safe to lower these walls? And what situations is it safe to lower down our walls? And what's the benefit to that? So we're going to talk about that. But first, welcome to the show, Tim and Jordan. Introduce yourself, starting with Tim.
Yep, I'm Tim Costello with ClearThatTrauma.com. And in this chrysalis venture that we're embarking upon, a chrysalis is a thing that a caterpillar creates around itself as it metamorphosizes into a gorgeous butterfly. So this is the same thing with MindChrysalis, is we're going to wrap your mind in a process that allows you to remove the things that are keeping you from flying and being free. Take it away, Jordan.
All right.
I'm Jordan Kurtz. You can follow me on X, J Kurtz Hypnosis. I'm a hypnotist. I help people end their limiting beliefs, unlock their full potential, and my Twitter feed is mostly my musings on that subject. So come work with me.
And people can contact you through Twitter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we all do one-on-one sessions, guys. There's also a online digital product that I sell, but I also have a completely free product, which for most people will help them out quite a bit. And you can access that and our online community that we're all members of. It's quite an active community. It is about taking your mind from that caterpillar to that butterfly with the chrysalis, figuratively speaking. School.com, MindChrysalis-7138. There's an ebook on there on how your subconscious mind works, why it keeps you stuck. There are training videos. There's self-hypnosis, all for free that you can, there's worksheets where you can actually start fixing, transforming your inner mind, turning it into this, this powerhouse and more healthy, more self-belief, more authentic, true confidence. We actually give you resources, no charge whatsoever, to do that. If you want to take it further, then yeah, come to us, and we have paid services, but there is some powerful stuff online, no charge. We didn't pull any punches. We gave you some of our most powerful stuff on the MindChrysalis community. So go ahead and join and reap the benefits and connect with others and get tips and help from others who are also on this journey of like up-leveling their core. I mean, I did it. You know, people, you can watch my story on here or my other website, innermasculine.com. I used to have severe manic depression, rage, CPTSD, just anxiety all the time. Fixed it all, quadrupled my income. Now I'm living, you know, the life I want. I'm in Costa Rica right now, back to Mexico, getting what I want. And so when you fix your mind, you can do that. You can get what you want, but you can build and just live a great life and be your true, authentic self. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, you know, putting up walls to protect the true, authentic you, the parts of you that are maybe vulnerable from outside threats. And there's, you know, there's a benefit to that, but there's also a downside. So we're going to be talking about that today. And Tim, Jordan, before we start this clip, it's Dr. Aime Apigian. Before we start her clip, you guys have anything to say about building internal walls and why we might want to let those down on a permanent or temporary basis? Go ahead.
Well, I guess internal walls are, I mean, those can be anything. I mean, we talk a lot about subconscious programs. I think that might be her kind of frame, that might be the term she uses or kind of to picture it. Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah, she uses a couple of other words, but she means subconscious programs, maladaptive.
She's using her own terms, but that's what she means: trauma programs, you know, ego, all of that. Yeah.
So as we begin this today, realize, and most of you watching probably know a little bit about this, but as you come into this world in this subconscious theta state. You're trying to figure things out. And your subconscious is your coder. It is creating programs that will hopefully protect you and propel you into success the rest of your life. It
Yeah, in your
doesn't
childhood
know-
creates that up to about age 14.
Yeah, it doesn't know what success really is. It's only trying to keep you safe. So if you are abused either mentally, emotionally, physically, or sexually in your youth, the subconscious routines are built to protect you. It actually creates the fortress or the walls that we talk about now that don't serve you in the greater world, but they definitely try to protect you in your inner world. And it doesn't realize what it's doing is limiting you because its only function, as is programmed, trying to protect you. So that's what we're going to see and talk about a little bit today.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is automatic. Like, so the thing about our subconscious is our brain will automatically adapt and put these things in, put these walls up, whether we consciously acknowledge it or realize it or not. And I have people come to me. In fact, I just did an interview with Liam, and Liam, it's on the video section of this YouTube channel. I have 4 more interviews coming up. I just interviewed a guy who's very wealthy, influential businessman, owns 46 businesses, has a TED Talk, published author, does annual stuff at MIT. He's the chairman of this annual meeting. He talks about on his interview, he closed, helped a $145 million business get sold, and they do that all the time. This stuff helped him too. And so that's coming online too. But this guy, Leon, that I just interviewed, he talks about he didn't even think he had a messed up childhood. And then he realized, oh man, I got trauma from my childhood, but the thing is what happens is we realize we're struggling with something. Why can't I lose that last 10 pounds? Why do I binge eat? Why can't I stop drinking? Why do I want to get in the gym, but I don't? Or why do I procrastinate? Why do I self-sabotage? Why do I have more anxiety than I think I should? Just whatever. People are stuck somehow. They're like, listen, it's, why can't I just stick to my diet? Or just whatever it is. Why do I feel social anxiety? Just whatever. So we have these struggles in our daily lives, not even understanding that, consciously understanding, all the defense mechanisms our brain puts in to protect us from triggering like painful trauma within us. Our fight or flight system is actually designed to protect ourselves from trauma within us that gets triggered, to protect us from that pain, emotional pain based on these beliefs we have. And one of the protective mechanisms that are there, whether we acknowledge it or not, now again, it's different for different people. I'm not saying everyone has this, but many people do. Probably the majority of people to some degree have these walls that we put up to protect ourselves. It'll happen whether you consciously acknowledge it or not. What is the downside to that? So before we start this clip, because she's going to talk about, the downside of having these walls up, what are some examples of walls you guys see people putting up? Like, how's that manifest?
Well, it has a lot to do. I mean, one of the things that got you started, Ryan, was the desire for female companionship. And social anxiety is a place and a fortress that we live within as we struggle with meeting the opposite sex or meeting someone that we find cute or good looking. That's one social anxiety wall. And linked to that are the social anxieties we have within our job and our workspace and within our professional careers, where we sort of cordon ourselves off because we're shy or not unfearful about venturing outside that comfort zone.
Yeah, another false persona. It's not just avoiding stuff like our social anxiety. Oh, I'm not going to go to this party because I'm going to be anxious and I'm uncomfortable, so I just won't do that. We also put up false personas. We don't show the real us. We put up on a mask. We show the fake us, that we think the world will accept instead of just being who we are. That's another type of wall.
Another wall.
Or avoiding stuff, staying in the basement, playing video games all day, and not getting the girl, or you get the girl, but it's like, well, I'm just having sex with this girl. I'm not really connecting with her, you know. I'm just going to go out and do that and, you know, get that pleasure, but not have meaningful connection. She's not going to see the real me, or with friends, or with anything, you know. Any other type of walls
Yeah,
Jordan,
I was going to say,
go ahead.
sometimes it's just, if you're struggling with changing in general, and you're struggling with just looking at some of these programs we mentioned, you know, the 5 big ones we usually mention, you know, that can be a wall in and of itself. Some people struggle with I don't mean self-improvement, just trying to search for the problem in and of itself can be difficult. I know I struggled with that. I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. All these other people had it much harder than you. You're fine. You know, that.
So what was the struggle for you exactly?
Well, the primary one, the biggest one was accepting that it was okay to try and get better. If that makes sense. So,
okay. Well, what was the struggle then? Because it is okay to get better.
Right. But it was, if I wanted to look at parts of my life, and this was way back in 2019, that I wanted to change, but there was some shame associated around that specific topic, I wouldn't allow myself to look at that specific topic. Like, for example, if I wanted to buy like cryptocurrency, for example, well, if it felt like people in my life were like, oh, you shouldn't do that, crypto's risky, that type of stuff, I would, before I used hypnosis, I would usually not take that action.
Yeah,
or
you wouldn't take risks.
Right. Because
even if they're risks that are likely to pay off.
And right. And and perhaps more insidious, even when I did take risks and they paid off, I still had that hesitation because I didn't want to feel like I was being shamed. So tying it back to the walls, it's sometimes like we talk a lot about this channel about how people can recognize when they have these toxic these maladaptive programs in their head. If you discover resistance to change, like I can't lose weight, or I can't make money, or I can't form close relationships, things like that. If you discover a lot of internal resistance, it just feels unnatural. That's a good example of a wall, because you have to get over in order to change.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we have this clip by Dr. Aime Apigian. I hope I didn't slaughter her name. So
Sounds
we're gonna
good.
play. It's not too long of a clip, and there's like a 1 minute section in this 6 minute clip. There's like a minute and a half like mini commercial she does. We'll skip through that.
It's her.
Yeah. Tim was mentioning how she's a very aggressive marketer, which I good for her. You know. But we're gonna play this, and then we're gonna discuss further. And it's a downside of, you know, avoiding pain, staying safe, not revealing the true us to others, not going out into the world and taking risks, staying in our fortress. That's how she puts it. So here we go.
When it comes to experiences that actually overwhelm the body, and it adapts in that moment in order to get through the overwhelm in the best way that it knows how to get us through, it continues to operate from that standpoint. It continues to operate from those adaptations. It continues to operate from those bracing patterns. It never reaches a point, until we do the work, it never reaches the point where it realizes, oh, I'm safe. I don't need that bracing pattern anymore. I can actually let my shoulders down. I can actually take those deep breaths. No, what happens is that it stays in a state of looking for the danger.
We call this hypervigilance, always searching for threats.
Hang on a second. I like her term of the word, or her use of the word bracing pattern, right?
And also she mentions our body, like our body. It's not just our brain, it's our whole body. Our nervous system responds to this.
So is she talking about, make sure I got this correct, she's saying trying to calm yourself down, you're still in that hyper state, so it doesn't work? Is that what she just said?
She's talking about hypervigilance, always having your guard up, even subconsciously.
Yeah, the bracing pattern that she mentions, I
Brace
believe.
for the assault. Brace for impact.
Am I
Sorry,
on
go
mute?
ahead, Tim.
No, we heard you.
We heard. I'm sorry.
The bracing pattern, I think what she's referring to is the things we do to manage or cope with our stress, our trauma, our fear, whatever. And then she jumps right into what Ryan's saying, that hypervigilance. Always looking out for the next thing coming to harm you.
Because it's still there.
Yes, yes. The
Or
fear is
that-
still there.
I absolutely had this. I had low-level anxiety all the time.
Yep.
Like all the time. The only time I didn't have it is like if I was playing video games. And then I'd be focused on the video game. And, you know, sometimes I play video games till 6 a.m. As Tim knows from when he knew me 18 years ago. Why are you sleeping until noon? Well, because I play video games till 6 a.m. And it's, you know, deal with my anxiety as my relief from my anxiety I had all the time. Yeah.
Well, I think when you're playing the video games,
the way to stay safe.
That is one sense of numbing the anxiety or numbing the pain of subconscious trauma. It allows you to, quite frankly, enjoy yourself because video games are fun, but it also distracts your mind tremendously from the things that you're overthinking about all the time.
Yeah, it was more relief.
Yes. Yeah.
In hindsight. Yeah, it was fun, but also more relief. Yeah. Okay.
Right,
yeah, we'll keep going. By the way, I'm glad you are now seeing more and more of these doctors and therapists talking about trauma in the body. We can thank Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. His book Body Keeps the Score. It's like still the #1 selling psychology book, like 8 years straight. And so they're waking up to this, but they haven't actually gotten to the point where they realize they can actually go in and fix trauma directly instead of working through the portal of your cognitive mind, the prefrontal cortex. They haven't figured that out yet, but they're getting closer. So
hey, what's interesting is Bessel van der Kolk. I was watching an interview with him, probably about a year old, and he mentions this book that he first started reading to understand this trauma that people trap in their body. So I actually found that book online. So I'm going to be reading that on my trip this week.
What's it called?
Neuroses of War.
Let's here. Traumatic Neuroses of War. Oh yeah, well, war will do it.
Yeah.
war will mess you up, man.
And,
all right.
And one of the things he points out in there was the triggering of these tragic events were based upon the trauma that came from childhood.
Oh, yeah. So what happens is the people who have the most PTSD problems from war, from combat, is people who have trauma in their childhood. And what happens is traumatic events as an adult, they really magnify trauma that's already in you. That's what they do. And so, and most people have some sort of trauma, but the people who have the most childhood trauma then go to war. And that's the people that get really screwed up from war. Whereas if you have someone who had a relatively, healthy childhood and good subconscious programs, they actually handle combat and all these other things. They process it in a much more healthy manner. I'm not saying it doesn't affect them at all. It does, absolutely. But the people who really in war, military vets, etc., those people who become just like alcoholics or drug addicts, or they self-delete, they become violent, and then they go to jail because they, almost murdered someone, after they got back from active duty. And there's a lot of guys in the military like that who they return from war and then they get arrested for assault. They're just whatever, all sorts of maladaptive responses. And the guys who would, and women, men and women who have the most struggle are those with from trauma now as adults, are those with childhood trauma. It just magnifies the hell out of it. Yeah. So, welcome to the show, everyone. Attention's key. Let's go. Yeah, we're going, baby. Kevin, P-Dubs,
Okay.
loyal follower, P-Dubs. You're a fan of us. We're a fan of you too, P-Dubs.
Yep.
All right, so back to the clip here. And we'll keep going.
That what happened to us will never happen again.
Context, she's saying that's why we put up walls. We don't ever want trauma we don't ever want to get hurt again.
In order to never have that happen again, it always has to be on the lookout. And so we build a fortress. We build a fortress that protects us. And we stand inside our fortress. We may have built it high, and we look out and we scan for danger constantly. And that's how we think that we're keeping ourselves safe. And it is true. In a sense, we are keeping ourselves safe by continuing to operate from these places of adaptations. And yet there's also no growth. There's no possibility for growth because you have to stay in your fortress. But right outside of your fortress is a trail. You look at that trail and you see danger because that's the trauma adaptations that your body is still operating from.
Okay, so here's like her 1.5-minute commercial. Good for you, but we're still
I
gonna.
really like her. She does some really good analogies. She talks about this fortress, and right outside this fortress is this path. Most people can't see that path, but I think she's talking about the desires that people want when they're real authentic desires. They really would like these things, but they can't seem to get there because of the walls that their mind has built to keep them safe.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of conventional counselors, they're not just people where you sit on a couch and you talk to them. They're actually moving in the direction of taking active measures to get you better, thank goodness. And their methods can work over time. It's just, man, they haven't yet figured out that there's a huge shortcut people can take, and you don't need to do months or years before you see benefit. And that's why we have a show. If you guys want to see it for yourself, how our methods work, MindChrysalis, in the link, it's my name down there. Go there, try it out for yourself. I have people email me all the time. Like I've had people email me and they're like, you don't know me. I just use your one self-hypnosis audio and training. That's, what I give them for free. Although my paid program's 10 times more content. They're like, I lost 50 pounds because of you, people contact, or, I used to always have this tension in my jaw. I used to always have my guard up. Now I don't, that's a free program. It does that for people. It doesn't do it for, it's like 80% of people. It helps 20%. You need more. But try it out,
The only criticism I have for her is that I don't think building that fortress, as she describes it, is really a choice. I think that's something that happens as
it's automatic.
Oh, she said that. Yeah.
She did?
Yeah. She's not assuming that the walls are built by us, but we're living within that fortress.
Yeah, it's an automatic trauma response.
Okay. Yeah. Because I wanted to make that clear, because it's often when we're young, we're just adapting to our environment. We don't know we're doing it. We're just doing what makes the most sense at the time.
And that's what I was trying to convey earlier as well, is this happens whether we're conscious of it or not. All right, thanks, Jordan. We'll keep going.
As you start to do both the body work, the somatic work.
What's up?
Video, Ryan.
The video's not on the screen.
Oh. Wait a second. Here we go. Boom. All right. Thank you. We're live. No editing here. We're live because we're lazy and we don't want to edit. Just kidding.
As you
say, hey, you guys get a comment, and then we respond to your comments because we're live, so it's all good.
To do both the body work, the somatic work, the parts work, the biology of trauma work. As you start to do that work and you start to increase your capacity to heal and to hold stress without it becoming overwhelmed, we start getting able to challenge your views of that trail. And now, rather than only seeing possible danger coming down the trail towards us, we start to be able to ask the question, what might be down that trail for me? What might I be able to discover? What might I be able to explore and get curious about? When we are living inside of our fortresses that have protected us, and so they have served a good reason. And I'm glad that you've had your fortresses up until now. But when we're living from those fortresses, we're not able to be curious about anything because we're guarded. And that's how parts of us die, and yet we still live. Because we have to kill those parts of us that want to explore. We have to shut down that curiosity of, oh, I wonder what's down that path. Oh, I wonder what I could do. No, that's not safe. That's not safe. Bring it back in. Squash that. Stay small.
Sounds like she's talking about a zombie, right? Like,
Yeah.
kind of undead in a way, you know? It's like you're living, but you're not really living.
And we can see how much our lives have been affected by this. And this is where I get very sad, because when I was first starting my healing journey, I looked back on my life and I saw how much time I had wasted living inside of my fortress. And I made a decision. I did not want to waste any more time in my life. I want to have the capacity to step out. I didn't yet know how to have that capacity, but I wanted to have that capacity. I wanted to feel more alive. I wanted all those parts of me to be able to be expressive and to thrive in life, not to be being squashed, numbed, having myself in distractions so that I wouldn't notice it, but actually being able to live from a true place of, this is me, this is who I'm meant to be, and this is my purpose in life, and I get to follow my calling in life. And so as you are considering learning how to increase your capacity for life, I so encourage you to just hold that vision. Hold the vision of what is possible. I didn't know what was to come. I didn't know what my life would become, did not know what was down that trail for me, but I held the vision of what was possible, of what might be down that trail, if I could just stay consistent with the work and be able to build my capacity to experience life and not be overcome.
So let's
Okay.
comment. As she goes back a little bit there, she talks about not knowing what's down the road, but being curious about getting there. That is ultimate vulnerability, right? You know something is good down there. And a lot of people think vulnerability means you're just open to attack. Like, hey, I'm vulnerable, so therefore I'm open to attack. When in reality, vulnerability means that you're able to put aside the fear of what's going to happen in the hopes that something really great will happen no matter what. You're committed and you're moving. So it's a little bit different flavor to vulnerability, but that's more appropriate about what we're talking about. She's a very good emotional marketer. I love her messages. I love to watch her videos. She has a really great video with Gabor Mate where they get into it. Gabor says all the same things that we've heard over and over again, but she seconds those motions. And it's funny is I don't detect from anything that she's doing that there's any hypnotherapy involved, but she has probably developed a pretty good effort of managing and coping the trauma and helping people work outside their comfort zone. That's what I get from that.
Yeah, she knows a lot of good stuff, but it's kind of like your conscious mind is a bottleneck. And if you use that as the main portal to fix your trauma, it's bottleneck, and it takes way longer. It's a huge bottleneck where it's, okay, let's bypass that bottleneck and go straight on your subconscious, work directly on the trauma there and fix it like that. You know, doesn't mean we get everything in one session, but it's like, I'll work on 1, 2, 3, 4 subconscious traumas and get rid of them 60 to 100% in one session. And then you might have, you might have like 6 or 10 major ones and then a bunch of moderate and small subconscious programs. So usually for me, 1 to 3 sessions to get all the major stuff gone for most people. There's like maybe 5-10% need more. But really it's that quick. And I'm about, just watch my latest interview, watch all the other ones on my YouTube channel. And they're like, oh man, 1 session, 2 sessions, and they totally turn their life around. That's why we bypass that bottleneck and we just go in and just straight boom, 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 boom. It's freaking awesome. Sorry, go ahead, Jordan. You're going to say something.
There's something about that video that is strange to me. I'm really trying to put it into, I've been trying for the last like 5 minutes to put it into words. It might be that she's oversimplifying some. I need to watch more of her content, but I don't know. There's something strange.
This is a marketing message. And she has taken everything that we talk about and she's elevated it to a 50,000 foot view. So 98% of the people out there will understand a little bit and relate to a little bit that she's talking about that would cause them to at least go to her website and sign up for some emails and sort of get that process rolling, begin that marketing machine.
That might be my issue with it, is that it might be too general.
Absolutely.
Not that I disagree with her broader points, but I'm wondering if I'm agreeing with them because I am seeing what I want to see because I do hypnosis. And so somebody else may, I'm kind of applying the meaning that I want to see into the video because I do hypnotherapy with the subconscious programs. And that might not be what she's actually referring to, but
the exact same thing, Jordan, because I watched it initially. I go, wow, but I understand everything she's talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not against her format, but I understand where you're coming from.
But again, this is a marketing message. And again, with marketing messages, if you're going to get them to the masses, to get the masses to respond, you've got to use these generalities that trigger enough people into going, I'll give you my email address for a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm looking on her website here. It's it looks like she has something called the biology of trauma, is something professional training. So maybe she is, maybe I just need to watch more content because we talk about that's what we always ask our clients, right? Where do you feel it in your body? Right. So maybe the message was just too general for my taste, but were we going to cover?
I believe she's helping people. I believe
I do too. I wasn't trying to cut her down.
The big thing is we look and we look and we look, and there's so much knowledge these people have, but they don't know the big shortcut, that there's a big way to bypass all the, work and work and work and work, and it takes forever. There's a way to bypass that and just get much faster results. They don't know it.
There is a way to make her programs tremendously on fire. Could you imagine if she worked with us and we went in there and actually cleared the trauma that these people are strapped with? Her programs would be 1,000% more effective. And when I say that, I mean that it's really effective now, and it's more effective in a shorter term.
Yeah, and there's a message I really want to convey here. For those with a lot of subconscious trauma, it is, for them emotionally, it is flat out too dangerous to go outside their fortress. Because here's how our subconscious mind works. A subconscious program is a belief formed in childhood tied to a feeling. Trauma is a belief tied to a very painful feeling. The number one is I'm not good enough, toxic shame. It's just the most painful emotion we have. But it could also be I'm not safe, or anger or rage. It could be I cannot get what I want. I don't belong. Others won't accept me. I don't fit in with others. They just reject me. I'm an outcast. Just whatever, anything along those lines. Those are the 5 core traumas. If you have that in you, what happens is there are very painful feelings tied to these beliefs. And what happens is if you go into the outside world, and anytime there's anything in the outside world that's a match for this belief in you, that painful feeling tied to the belief gets triggered. And so what happens is you go out in the world and you have this feeling that, oh, If others reject me, it means I'm worthless and I don't really fit in, and I don't really, I can't connect to others. They will reject me. It's going to happen. So you go to this party, and because of your insecurities and lack of self-belief, you're like awkward, which actually leads people to treat you more poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you did get treated poorly, or something awkward does happen. And maybe even the other person is trying to connect with you. They just don't know how to connect with you. Maybe they have their own, insecurities, but you're going to interpret that as, oh, they're rejecting me. And that hurts like hell. Now you feel terrible because that belief tied to this painful feeling is in you, and it just got triggered. And so because of this trauma that is in people, they go out into the world, they get triggered, and it hurts like hell. And after a while, and this is why, by the way, our brain gives us all this anxiety to say, don't go out and get triggered because it's too painful. I want you to avoid this pain. This is why people stay in their fortress. So what happens is after you clear trauma, and what allows, I really hate the word vulnerable. I freaking hate that word.
Yeah, me too. It's badly
It
used.
is such a bad descriptor, because when you're able to become vulnerable, really what it is you're so secure that if people see your little flaws and they criticize it, it really doesn't hurt. You're not really vulnerable.
Not
You're
even
able
concerned.
to show the real you because you're strong enough to say, hey, this is the real me. And if you don't like it, I'm still good enough.
Right.
So I'm not really vulnerable. I'm just authentic, and I'm just the real me.
And then figured it out.
Right.
You're vulnerable if you have trauma in you. You are vulnerable only if you have trauma in you. What that means is now you go out into the world, you show the real you, and if someone rejects it, your trauma gets triggered and you feel terrible emotional pain. That is someone vulnerable.
Right.
Once you clear your trauma, you're not vulnerable. You are who you are. And if people don't like it, it's all good. So you're strong even when you're really the real authentic you. Yeah. And there, just yesterday I had this show with Teresa Kuhn, and it's like there are times where there are certain emotions men don't want to show publicly. It was this Caleb Williams, the USC quarterback. He's the front runner for the Heisman Trophy, first round NFL draft pick, most likely. And lost a game, quarterback of USC, lost a game, ran into the stands, hugged his mother and cried. And all these people are calling him, a baby and a pussy and all this crybaby. And it's like, yeah, we have to understand the world we live in. There are times where, we are guarded in certain things we show to the world. But there's really 95% of the time just absolutely no downside to being confidently authentic.
So I'd love to comment on. I watched your show yesterday. I watched it in the replay.
Yeah.
I thought him burying himself in his mother's chest with his dad standing nearby, receiving hugs and pats from both, and releasing that emotion.
He should accept that.
Because remember, this dude is operating at such a high level, and they've been doing it all season, that to lose a game like this was a big letdown. And you know what? He handled that emotion perfectly and beautifully, in my mind, by going to his mom, the people that he loves, and his dad, and sobbing like a baby. You go for it, baby, because he wasn't vulnerable. He didn't really give a crap what you thought.
Yeah,
it was okay with him. It was 100% okay. Absolutely beautiful. And I knew that the world would tear this guy apart for this, because they're so freaking insecure that they couldn't do that exact same thing and get away with it.
I agree 100%, Tim. So I'll say you can be the type of person where you're terribly disappointed and you do cry. Hey, men have emotions. If you pretend you don't, then you're just ignorant. So there's a truth there. You're ignorant of the truth. Men do have emotions. There are times men want to cry. I think you can be a person where you're authentically you do cry, and then later on someone shames you, and you're just like, who are you? I don't care who you are. Shut up. And you just don't care. So you can be very secure that way. But the message I'm trying to convey is, as a man, there are times where it is strategically beneficial to not show that emotion, to wait until you're in a private room with your mom and dad and then cry. Because there can be strategic benefit to that. But from a point of just authenticity, is it wrong that he cried? Of course it's not wrong that he cried. Of course, that's a natural response, and he shouldn't be shamed for it. But we do have a society where the ignorant masses are just that. They're ignorant, and they say dumb shit that they shouldn't say, but they do it anyways. We have a wide spectrum of people in our society. We have very knowledgeable, wise people that say, hey, good for him that he's able to be authentic. And then a bunch of people who will, try and tear him down because of that. And so I'm totally for saying, hey, be strategic so that the morons of society don't tear you down.
It's also like those people have never been in that situation before. Who knows how they would react anyway?
Yeah. Well, they said goodbye to their SEC championship hopes with that loss. So it was very terrible loss.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But you're right, Jordan. You're right that
I've been pondering.
There are very few people who operate at that level.
Right.
Very few.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Well, and we mentioned Teddy Roosevelt's quote yesterday of "It's not the critic who counts.
That's right.
It's a strong man who's in the ring and falters." All strong men falter. Do you think strong men don't falter? What makes them strong is they falter and they keep going and they learn and grow and get stronger and stronger in the process until they have the big success that those who are not willing to face failure never have. It's not the critic who counts. Go ahead.
I was thinking about, so here's why I've been mulling over my thoughts about this woman, the video for a while. So I'm not sure. The reason I like our show is I think we get pretty specific with the types of trauma we deal with, the toxic shame. We go really in depth. And I'm not sure if, like when I was first discovering Ryan, I'm not sure if her analogy of living in a fortress, I feel like it's a little oversimplified. And I feel like it would have missed someone like, now maybe other people, this is just my thoughts, but I think it would have missed me because I would have said, like I was saying in the beginning, like, oh, I don't have an issue. I don't live in a fortress. I'm not like this. I don't have walls up. Like people that have walls up, I don't think they usually would admit that they have those walls up.
Correct.
Some don't even know.
It's delusion.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of,
if they did the work, they would find out, but they don't even think about it.
And that might be my problem with her. I don't have a problem with the content. It's the fact that people who have walls often don't want to admit that they do because they're sensitive about that stuff. And so somebody saying you do, that's why I think Ryan kind of cut through. Ryan kind of forced me to see what was in my head, not because saying you have walls, but you kind of presented general information way back in 2019. And you started to kind of chip away, go, oh, this might be a problem. This might not be the way it should be. Like you started, I think for people, you have to plant that seed of doubt that, oh, maybe these maladaptive programs I have exist and they don't have to exist. And I'm concerned that telling people you have walls and you just need to get out of your castle and go explore the world. It's like
terrible advice if you still have trauma.
Yeah, because it's like
you need those walls until you get rid of your trauma.
I don't want to say she's not dismissing it, but other people who don't know anything about trauma and therapy might say, oh, can't you just go out and enjoy life? Can't you just get over it? Can't you just like, and I'm not saying that's what she's saying, but I'm saying that people who watch her may have experienced other people in their life saying something similar who aren't trained. And that might cause them to dismiss the useful parts of her videos. So
let me ask you a question, Jordan.
Yeah.
How intellectually capable are you? Very. Right. I'll answer for you. Very.
You're an engineer. You're valedictorian of your class. You're a very smart guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you gave a speech at your graduation, right?
I conducted the choir. I didn't give a speech. I was conductor for our choir group.
Oh, very good. So here's the valedictorian of a high school, which means that the whole high school class goes, geez, I'd like to be that guy, right? I'd like to be that smart. I'd like to be that intellectually capable and competent to be the person that gets all those grades because my parents would be happy with me. My teachers would be happy with me. I'd receive so much external validation. Yet you learned a few years later that, and again, because you were that person, that we all looked up to in high school as the smart guy is we'd all go, yeah, he doesn't have any problems, right? And then you would believe that same delusion about yourself that, hey, I'm all put together, man. I'm the freaking valedictorian. What are you guys talking about? I'm smart. I don't need no help. Yet, as you venture forward, you start seeing chinks in your armor, which we all have, not just you, but we all have. And you go, hey, maybe there's something a little miswired or maladaptive that you can now repair. And now you're intellectually smart enough to go, yeah, that's me. So, courageous. I admire you for doing that, because I would think that'd be a tough place to operate from. I was never that smart guy. I was literally right in the middle. 291 out of 697. That was me, right in the middle. So I was the average guy.
That's slightly above average, Tim. Good job.
Well, we already knew that, Ryan. I mean, that's why I hung out with you, because I always elevate my game. But I appreciate and applaud that Jordan was figuring out as it rolls along and allowing the delusion to sort of take a second seat, because we can certainly think ourselves into thinking ourselves better, because there becomes that persona that Ryan talks about. Here's my wall. On the outside of my wall, I'm going to hang this picture, because this is what I think people will accept and want to see, and that will make me feel better.
That's an excellent point, and I want to continue with it, because I only noticed it after high school, when all of those external validations started going way down.
Yeah,
I was no longer top of my engineering class at my first school, at my first college. I was like 3.0 if I was doing well. Like, that was a good class. Like, I was struggling, and so all that external validation I had in high school, plus my girlfriend at the time, was gone. And so, and I moved out of that environment too. I moved across the state. And so when all of that external factors disappear, you're only left with what's inside your head, and you're almost forced to see what's there. Yeah. You can't help it. And so I think that, I mean, the timing makes a lot of sense in my mind, because there was nothing left to distract me from what was in my mind. And you had to look at it. Fortunately, Ryan came around about the same time I was noticing it, so it worked out. But
you're welcome, baby.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Hey, Jordan, you were gracious enough to do an interview, share your story that's on my YouTube channel. I remember a part of it where you said you were trapped in a cage. And the point I want to make is, when we set up this fortress, it's also a prison.
Yeah. Sean Stevenson, baby, the prison of your mind.
And prison of your mind. It keeps you from going out and getting so many good things, and keeps you from expanding as a person, as a human being. Yeah. With that said, I'll tell you right now, my dating, I'm 49. My dating life started at around 44. That wasn't my first date. I started dating as a teenager, but my dating life started at age 44. Honestly, it's a damn good dating life. It's kind of shocking when you learn that as an older guy, you actually have if you have like inner confidence and authenticity, you're authentic, you're confident, you're high value, you have a good career, you got your crap together, all of that. Women find that incredibly attractive, and so you can do just fine in your 40s, probably even in your 50s with dating, FYI. But what I mean when I say my dating life started at 44 is okay, so I found this stuff, self-hypnosis, at 38. And then I dated, but I cleared a lot of trauma at 38. I became much more, confident, loved myself more, accepted myself more. But it wasn't until about 44 that I cleared my trauma with relation to my relationships with women, my viewpoints on women. And what happened is, after I cleared my trauma, my viewpoint was, well, I was dating women to get validation because I felt not good enough up to that point. And it's like, oh, I'm good enough just for who I am. So I dated for a couple years on and off. And I'm like, why am I dating women? They're flaking on me. They're ghosting me. They're shit testing me. They're doing all this dumb stuff. And there's some upside, but man, it seems like more downside. And so I went mostly MGTOW for a few years after that. But about age 44, I said, man, I got this. Men and women are supposed to be together. I'm missing out. I still have that fortress around me with regards to dating, because it turned out, because of my upbringing, I felt women were dangerous. Because I had a mom psychologically attacking, sabotaging me, backstabbing me all the time, making me feel, bad. That was my upbringing, narcissistic personality disorder mom. I literally felt women are going to betray you. They're going to backstab you. They're going to hurt you. And the truth is, a lot of women will, but a lot won't, And so because of that, even though I felt good about who I was, my income went way up and I was doing way better, I still have these walls up with regards to dating. And I started dating at age 44. I went on like 36 dates in, 5 months, 6 months. I went on a ton of dates. And honestly, it was painful. They were triggering all these insecurities in me that were still there. Well, guess what? I now had these techniques. I probably had 6 to 8, maybe 9, 10 bad painful subconscious programs. And so these women triggered all those programs. Women are great for that, by the way. They're great at triggering men's insecurities. But when I started dating again with this intention to solve this issue, all these programs were triggered, and I didn't even realize they were there because I was staying in my fortress. I wasn't dating. I cleared them out. I have the techniques now. So I cleared them out and I fixed them. In 6 months, I fixed all these issues, 8, 9, 10 bad subconscious programs. And what I discovered by that is, now I'm dating and women will pull their crap, and I literally just won't care that they pull their crap. Once I fix my trauma, I'm like, okay, whatever. She's not the one for me, but I don't feel bad, because it's like what I by clearing my trauma and reprogramming this part of my life, it's what I found out is I am powerful enough to handle toxic women, which is part of dating. Now, again, not all women are toxic, but some are. Just, if you're a woman watching this, same thing for guys. Some guys are incredibly toxic. Some guys are fantastic. And there's a bunch of people in the middle. So what I discovered, I can handle this shit. I'm powerful enough, and I can be the real authentic me. And if they don't like it, I'm cool. So I don't like that vulnerability phrase. It's like, listen, what if I'm the real me and a woman does reject me and I'm totally cool with it and it doesn't hurt me at all? Is that vulnerable? No. So, but I'm being the real me now. So that's why I hate that term. So when you fix your internal world, you realize you have the power to go out in the world and navigate it and be safe and protect yourself.
The world's
your oyster. Now you're not afraid anymore. And now the pain is gone because there's nothing to trigger in you. You fixed it.
Just like the word liberal in politics, the world has absconded and abused the word vulnerable.
It's a terrible phrase because it only applies to people with trauma in them.
That's correct. But they think it belongs to everybody that just happens to open themselves up.
Because the people who invented the phrase are traumatized and using it.
Absolutely.
It is what it is, guys.
You're on the money. You're on the money.
Ryan, I would argue that, and by handle, you mainly mean like if you encounter someone is toxic or has that low self-esteem, it's not. It's like you kind of just let them go. It's like it's not a match for your internal world.
Exactly, and I'm not mad at them.
Right, it just doesn't make sense. It's like, and it's not. And I would say it's not even it's not even like conscious or intentional. It's just like they kind of just fades out of your life. Like you just kind of, it doesn't even make unconscious sense to even bring them into your life in the first place. It's like the minute they start doing something that's toxic, you're just like, you kind of just let go, but you almost do it without thinking about it. Like
So here's why.
Right.
Here's why, Jordan. So when you get your solid inner game established, and I'm not saying it's 100%, but it might be 95%. And like Ryan says, he's 90%, 95% fixed, but that last 5% isn't even worth the effort going after because it doesn't bother him at all. Right. So let's say
I still have some small stuff bother me a tiny bit here and there. It does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I misread that. But if you've got a solid inner game like Ryan has now, where he knows his internal value and he belongs to himself and people will accept him just for like he is. And if they don't, who cares? And
Yeah, my value
he
is not
deserves-
dependent on how others treat me.
Right. He deserves what he gets. He knows where he's going to work on it and he will enjoy it when he gets it. He is no longer harbored with rage, resentment, or anger, and he feels safe and secure now. So when anybody gets that, that's a fun place to be there, but you now start creating this inner frame, right? And like Jordan says, if somebody doesn't fit into that frame, no big deal. Move on.
Yeah, they got their life.
didn't
They're not
fit.
on the same path as me. So good luck to
Yeah,
you.
you didn't
We're not a
fit. You
match.
didn't get
It's okay.
in. Move on. Away you go.
You were. Was she your 40th girlfriend? Really?
Yeah.
Ah, you lady killer. You.
No, let's be real. So, I counted all the
Let's be
ladies
real,
I was
it was really your
dating. I don't know
90th
why I
girlfriend. You didn't
did,
tell about 50.
but the reality is, sometimes it was a Subway lunch date, and she didn't fit inside my frame, so that was a date, but no longer. And there were probably only 2 or 3 out of all of those 39 girls prior to Carrie that I dated maybe 3 times. Maybe I think one of them went to a 4th date, but that was it. They weren't fitting in the frame. I'm moving on. That's not what I'm looking for. But when I saw Carrie, I had her friend that I was dating, that they all came up from New York to Groton, Connecticut to meet us all as sailors. And when I got back from sea, I knew that this other girl didn't fit in my frame, even though I loaned her my what did I loan her? My Sega Genesis, I think, or something like that. Don't remember what it was back in the day. But anyway, I loaned her that, came back, got all my stuff back, started dating Carrie, and within 2 weeks, we were engaged. That was 40 years ago. So she fit into my frame, and I fit into hers.
Yeah, you guys were a match. And so Carrie's saying she felt not good enough to have a boyfriend, narcissistic mother. She tried to start businesses, and kept starting and stopping, starting. Now she has a business that's she's maintaining it, sustainable, it's profitable. And, not to toot my horn, it's a technique, but I did 1 session for her and now boom, 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 kicking ass.
Yep.
That anxiety is like way down. We'll never 100% get rid of anxiety. We get rid of the anxiety that doesn't serve us, that holds us back. Now anxiety is actually warning us of actual threats we should pay attention to. And so the big message I want to give people is you fix your trauma. You don't need the fortress anymore. You can go out into the world and you have the power to navigate it successfully. And when things don't go your way, you are strong enough and resilient enough to say, hey, it's cool. And you keep going, and now you get what you want. And, that's why I'm like living in Latin America. And like, honestly, I can date 1/10 of the women I match with on Tinder. Honestly, it's probably like 5%. So, dating life is great. I wouldn't have the strength to do that when I had my trauma, no freaking way. And I couldn't, the reason I'd have a lot of first dates and very few second ones, because women could sense I had this internal trauma and weakness, and I couldn't be the real authentic me. I was, validation seeking, all this stuff. It's just big turnoffs for women. It's all gone. Now it's like, I am who I am. And if we're at match, great. If not, and listen, once you get that in your core, your attractiveness to women, I'm not saying I'll get every woman. I don't, by any means, but your attractiveness goes way up when you get this real confidence.
When we were together 2 or 3 years, working together 18 to 15 years ago, I don't remember you actually going on a date. You may have. I just didn't keep track.
When we first met, my dating life was sucky. I had some, Tim, but it wasn't that great.
Yeah. Well, you didn't ever mention them. That's for sure.
I'd have first dates, and occasionally I get second, third date. And then the woman would just like sense my insecurities and weakness. And and that I'm people pleasing, that I need her for validation. I'm looking for a mommy more than the girlfriend, because to get the validation my mom never gave me, and total turn off to them,
Yep.
So, yeah.
Good deal.
And even in the United States, I'm in Latin America now, but dating success like went up tenfold by just fixing my internal world and going out, pulling the trigger. I wouldn't pull the trigger so many times before. I'm not saying I'm not a guy who approaches 100 girls on the street. It's like every now and then I will, but it's because I'm in so much abundance, and I do sometimes, whereas I wouldn't before. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So any thoughts from you, Jordan? I guess I'm more passionate about this than I thought I would be.
I told you we'd be able to fill an hour.
Yeah. We just hit the hour mark.
I think because that's why I like again, I'll just reiterate, I like that our message is generally, we try and be more specific, because I think it's important in order to reach out to people. And to be fair, I think she's probably in the same case, where when you've experienced these kinds of traumas and limiting beliefs, that helps you explain it to other people, because you've been where they've been. You've been struggling with that thing. You've been in denial about that thing. You've been, having poor habits in order to avoid thinking about that thing. So especially if you've had sessions from us, if you've worked with one of us, tell other people about it, and when you tell other people about the sessions, try and use that same language that got you to sign up for one of us. If you're trying to spread the message and help more people, figure out what was most convincing for you, and then try and use that same language, that same frame of mind to explain it to other people, because you might just help out somebody else as well by explaining it the right way. Maybe they just haven't heard it from the right person. And usually what I do is I start with how I was dealing with it. I usually try and not say, you're messed up and I know you're messed up because of XYZ. That doesn't really work. Often what happens is, if you share something that you were experiencing and you got over, people are naturally and it's not acting as if you're trying to push it on them. Be really genuine with it. They will naturally start to, it's like trying to attract a cat, right? Rather than chasing it around, you put out some food, but putting out the food is talking about your own experience, and people will relate to it. They can't help to relate.
People love authentic confidence, man.
Right. Yes, they do.
Right.
Because when you're authentically confident, they're like, well, look at this guy. He's not perfect, but he's so comfortable in his skin. Maybe I can be that way too. Maybe the real me is okay too. They love it.
Especially if that person explains that they used to not be that way, and they can explain using proper communication or language to the other person. Because I'm sure we've all talked about, the three of us have all, beaten to death all of our friends and family about this hypnosis stuff. Oh, this is so great, and so we learn how to communicate it, but it goes a lot farther if you're just a client of ours saying, hey, go do this, because, or you can't tell them to do it. You can attract them to want to do the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, talking about sharing, if you have people who struggle, right there, school.com, MindChrysalis -7138, all free. Sign up, get the benefits. Tell your friends.
Even if they don't want to post, they can just come in and read.
They can come in and use the course.
Come in and read the other posts.
We do webinars twice a month, by the way. So we just did a webinar on resentment. We're going to do one on projection. We might change that. But 2 webinars a month.
So here's my parting thought for today.
Rock on.
You need to have.
We're going for another hour, Tim. Just kidding.
Oh, that's cool. You need to have, in order to function in the world, to get the things you want to have and use them well when you have them. You need a solid inner frame. So you need to feel good enough. You need to belong. You need to be safe and secure. You need to understand that what you get is yours and you can enjoy it. And you need to get rid of all the rage, resentment, anger that exists in your life. And anger at people, anger at things, anger at systems, processes, whatever it is, whatever's working up your craw, let's solve that. Let's get into the chrysalis and get you metamorphosized into the butterfly that you're meant to be. And I know that sounds real metaphysical and sort of flowery, powery, and that kind of 1960s talk, but it's true. If you want to understand and experience life the best that you can, we're going to be able to give you and show you how to obtain what you should have got in childhood. That's what your parents should have done to you. They should have loved you and acknowledged you and accepted you and challenged you and made you feel safe and secure. And then you're rigged to take on anything in the world.
Yeah, Tim, the reason you became a hypnotherapist is you knew me when I was a caterpillar, and then a few years went by, and then you met me after I changed, after I became a very manly butterfly.
Yep, no question.
And then you're like, oh, damn, what did he do? And that's why you became a hypnotist, mindset coach.
Yep.
Yeah, so great discussion today. You guys have more power. This inner frame you're talking about, that's what replaces your insecurities when you fix trauma, fix psychological trauma. That's what you replace it with. And yeah, it changes everything. Anything final, Jordan?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, rock and roll. That's our show for today. And thanks for everyone who contributed. Thank you, P-Dubs. Carrie's been on. Attention is the key. Everyone else, there's like one other guy commented. So Kevin, thank you.
Kevin.
And you don't need to stay inside your fortress, because you can fix this stuff and then claim your power, go out into the world. A powerful person who doesn't have these vulnerabilities. And you can get that because you really do have more power than, I'm looking for this. Oh, there it is. All right. That's our show. Thanks.
Animation.